Minho led expeditions deep into the tunnel system. Using scanners to chart T-Day 30 arrived with another massive quake. Magnitude 7.5. The surface habitats, now mostly empty, swayed and creaked. One collapsed entirely, crushed by falling rocks. But underground in the lava tubes, the team barely felt it. The ancient volcanic structures absorbed the shock, staying stable while the surface world tore itself apart. Yuna was working on the thermal generator expansion when it hit. She paused, feeling the slight vibration through her boots, then continued working. Around her, the rest of the team did the same. They had learned to live with the quakes. Surface Habitat 3 just collapsed, Sora's voice came through the comm. Anyone inside? Yuna asked. No. We moved everything underground 2 days ago. Then it doesn't matter. That casual acceptance of destruction would have been unthinkable a month ago. Now it was just part of life on broken rock. Buildings broke. Equipment failed. The planet tried to kill you. You adapted and kept working. The construction team arrived on day 32. 12 new people, mostly human but including 3 aliens who had specifically requested assignment to broken rock. They stepped off the shuttle and stared at the landscape with a mixture of fear and fascination. Yuna met them at the landing pad. The lead engineer was a woman named Jiwoo, experienced in frontier construction but clearly nervous about the conditions. The briefing said Category 5 Death World, Jiwoo said, watching a dust storm move across the horizon. I thought they were exaggerating. They weren't, Yuna said. Come on. The real base is underground. She led them down into the lava tubes. Jiwoo's expression changed as they descended. The tunnels were lit with work lights revealing smooth walls and stable structures. The temperature was comfortable. The air was clean. This is incredible, Jiwoo said. How deep does it go? We've mapped about 15 kilometers so far, but the system extends much farther, could be hundreds of kilometers. They reached the main chamber where 6 habitat modules were now connected into a functioning living complex. More modules were under construction. Work crews moved between areas installing power lines and water systems. You built all this in 30 days? Jiwoo asked. We had to prove the concept, Sora said, joining them. Corporate needed to see results. You proved it. The people I work with are very excited about this approach. They're already talking about expanding to other death worlds. Over the next week, the work accelerated. With the construction team's help, they completed the core residential section, 20 habitat modules capable of housing 60 people comfortably. The thermal generators were expanded, now producing 5 times their original output. The water extraction system was operating at full capacity, pulling clean water from the underground ice deposits. Minho made a discovery on day 40. Deep in the tunnel system, past the explored sections, he found a massive chamber, 50 meters across, 30 meters high, with natural ventilation to the surface through narrow vents too small for dust storms to penetrate. This could be the main operations center, he said, showing Yuna the scans. Large enough for manufacturing facilities, storage, everything we need. They explored the chamber together, their lights revealing walls of layered volcanic rock in dozens of colors. The geology was beautiful in a harsh way. How stable is it? Yuna asked. Minho ran his scanner over the walls. Incredibly stable. This chamber has been here for millions of years. It'll be here for millions more. They stood in the center of the empty space, imagining what it could become. This is where the city starts, Yuna said quietly. Work teams began preparing the large chamber. It would take months to fully develop, but the potential was obvious. Broken Rock wasn't just a mining colony anymore. It was becoming something larger. On day 45, Instructor Vex requested a visit. His shuttle landed on the surface pad and Yuna met him personally. He stepped out in a full environmental suit, his forearms adapting to the equipment awkwardly. Commander Sora sends her regards, Yuna said. She's underground, coordinating the construction teams. I want to see what you have built, Vex said. Yuna led him down into the tunnels. She watched his reactions carefully. Vex had trained thousands of recruits, had seen dozens of frontier colonies. His opinion mattered. They walked through the residential section, past the thermal generators, into the water processing facility. Finally, to the large chamber where construction equipment was already being installed. Vex stood in silence, looking around. I told you you would die here, he said finally. You did. I was wrong. You were right about the dying part, Yuna said. The old approach died. We just built something new. Vex turned to look at her. This is not standard colony design. Broken Rock is not a standard world. Corporate will want to replicate this. Use your approach on other death worlds. Good. Maybe fewer people will die trying to force paradise world designs onto planets that will never be paradise. Vex was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I have trained many humans over my career. You are all strange. But you are especially strange. You look at a world that tries to kill you and you befriend it. We don't have much choice, Una said. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to listen instead of fight. That evening, Vex gathered the entire team, original members and new arrivals. 21 people now, with more scheduled to arrive within the month. I came here to evaluate your progress, Vex said, to determine if this colony was viable. I have made my determination. He paused, his alien eyes scanning the group. This is not just viable. This is revolutionary. You have created a new model for Death World colonization. Corporate is already planning 3 more colonies using your approach. Within 5 years, there will be 20 Death Worlds being developed this way. Murmurs of surprise and satisfaction ran through the group. But I want you to understand something, Vex continued. This success will draw attention. Other species will want to learn from you. Some will succeed. Others will fail. Death Worlds are still Death Worlds. They still kill people. He looked directly at Una. You proved that humans can do more than survive on these worlds. You proved they can thrive. That is a valuable lesson. But it came at a cost. You risked your lives repeatedly. You lost team members to evacuation. You pushed the limits of what is possible. That's the job, Dane said quietly. Yes, Vex agreed. That is the job. And you did it well. After Vex left, Sora called Una to her office. The commander looked tired but satisfied. Corporate is offering you a promotion, Sora said. Lead engineer for the next Death World colony. Better pay, better resources, full team of your own choosing. Una considered it, leading a colony from the start, using everything she had learned here. It was tempting. What about Broken Rock? She asked. We have enough people now. The construction team can handle the expansion. You've done your job here. Una thought about the large chamber still mostly empty, thought about the plans for manufacturing facilities, for expanded living sections, for gardens that could grow earth plants in Broken Rock soil. I want to stay, she said. Sora raised an eyebrow. You'd turn down a promotion to stay here? This isn't finished. We proved the concept, but we haven't built the city yet. I want to see it completed. It will take years. I know. Sora studied her. This place means something to you. It's the first thing I've built that might outlive me, Una said. The first place that might become a real home. All right, Sora said. You can stay, but I'm putting you in charge of the expansion project. Someone needs to make sure we do this right. Over the next 2 weeks, more personnel arrived. Engineers, geologists, life support technicians, and even a few families. People willing to live underground on a world that tried to kill them, because the opportunity was worth the risk. Una helped orient each new arrival, showing them the tunnels, explaining the systems, teaching them how to read the tremors and work with the planet instead of against it. One of the new arrivals was a young woman named Yunji, barely 20, fresh from engineering school on Earth. She was assigned to Yuna's team. I've read all your reports, Yunji said nervously. The rescue from the collapsed tunnel. The redesign of the entire colony. You're kind of famous now. Una found that idea strange. Famous for doing her job. Don't believe everything you read, she said. We just did what needed to be done. But you proved humans can live on Death Worlds. Really live, not just survive. We proved it's possible, but it's not easy. You'll work harder here than you ever have in your life. Equipment will break. Things will go wrong. And some days you'll wonder why you didn't take a job on a nice paradise world somewhere. Then why do it? Yunji asked. Una thought about her answer carefully. Because someone has to prove it can be done. Because these worlds have value beyond just resources. Because there are billions of people in the galaxy who need new homes. And if we only settle paradise worlds, most of them will never find one. She paused, looking around at the tunnel walls, at the lights strung along the ceiling, at the workers moving between sections. And because there's something satisfying about taking a place that doesn't want you and making it work anyway. That's what humans have always done. We're just doing it on a bigger scale now. Day 60 arrived, the original deadline for proving the colony's viability. Una stood in the large chamber. Una descended into darkness. The rope creaked against her harness, taking her weight in the 1.3 gravity that made every meter feel like 2. Her headlamp cut through the dust that filled the crevasse, illuminating rough rock walls that disappeared above and below. 30 seconds to bottom. Minho's voice came through the comm. He was descending behind her, with Voss bringing up the rear. Una's feet touched ground. She unclipped from the rope and looked around. They were in a tunnel, maybe 3 meters wide and 2 meters high. The walls were smooth, formed by ancient lava flow. It stretched in both directions, disappearing into darkness. "Dane, which way?" She called out. "East, maybe 20 meters." She moved carefully. The ground was uneven, covered with loose rock from the collapse. Her light played across the tunnel walls, showing layers of different colored stone. Minho would probably find it fascinating. Right now, she just wanted to get her people out. She found them in a small chamber where the tunnel widened. Dine was sitting against the wall, his suit intact. Hana was kneeling next to Kes, who lay on his back, his crystalline body flickering with pain. "Report," Una said, kneeling beside them. "Kes has a compound fracture of the lower leg. His oxygen system took damage in the fall. Line is severed." Hana pointed to a gash in Kes's suit where crystalline blood was leaking slowly. "I've patched the suit, but the oxygen line is beyond field repair." Una examined the damage. Hana was right. The line was shredded. They would need workshop tools to fix it. Voss and Minho arrived. Voss immediately went to Kes, speaking in their native language. The translator caught fragments. "Hold on. We'll get you out. How much time do we have?" Una asked. Hana checked her instruments. 3 hours 40 minutes at current consumption rate. Less if he panics. Less if we move him and increase his breathing rate. 3 hours 40 minutes to get him to the surface and into the habitat where they could repair his oxygen system properly. But first they had to climb out of a 5-meter hole in unstable terrain during active seismic conditions. Minho was examining the tunnel with his geological scanner. "This lava tube extends for kilometers. It's old, probably millions of years. But the structure is solid, stronger than the surface rock. Can we climb out the way we came?" Una asked. "Yes, but we need to move now. I'm reading microseismic activity. Another aftershock is building. How long? Could be minutes. Could be hours. No way to know." Una made the decision. "We carry Kes. Voss, you're the strongest. Can you manage his weight in this gravity?" Voss flexed his forearms. "Yes, but climbing the rope while carrying him will be difficult. We'll rig a lift system. Use the rope as a pulley." They worked quickly. Dane and Minho set up the pulley while Una and Hana stabilized Kes for transport. His leg was splinted, his suit patched, but he was conscious and in pain. "This is my fault," Kes said quietly. "I am not strong enough for this world." "Nobody is strong enough alone," Una said. "That's why we work in teams." They got him into a rescue harness. Voss would climb while Dane and Minho operated the pulley system from above, taking most of Kes's weight. Una and Hana would climb alongside to help if anything went wrong. "Ready?" Una asked. They started up. It was slow. Voss climbed steadily, his forearms finding holds easily. The pulley system groaned but held. Kes swung slightly in the harness, biting back sounds of pain. Una climbed beside them, watching for problems. The rock wall was rough, offering plenty of handholds. But the dust was everywhere, making surfaces slippery. They were 3 meters up when the tremor hit. The world shook. Una grabbed the rope and held on. Rock dust rained down from above. Somewhere in the tunnel below, something cracked with a sound like gunfire. "Keep climbing," Minho shouted from above. Voss didn't stop. His arms moved mechanically, pulling himself and Kes upward. Una matched his pace, another tremor, stronger. The rope swung violently. Una slammed into the rock wall, felt her shoulder take the impact. Pain lanced through her arm, but she didn't let go. "Almost there," Dane called. Una looked up. She could see daylight now, the red sun of broken rock visible through the opening. They were close. Voss reached the top and hands pulled him over. Then Kes, his harness dragging him to safety. Hana went next, climbing fast. Una was last. She grabbed the edge of the crevasse and hauled herself up just as another tremor hit. The ground shifted beneath her hands. Rock crumbled. Dane grabbed her arm and pulled. She came up and over, rolling onto solid ground. They lay there for a moment, breathing hard. "Everyone okay?" Sora asked. She had been watching from a safe distance, ready to coordinate. "We're alive," Una said. They carried Kes back to the habitat. Hana worked on him for 2 hours. repairing his oxygen system and setting his leg properly. He would live, but he would need surgery that could only be done in orbit. I need to evacuate him, Hana said. He needs proper medical care, Sora nodded. Signal for pickup. Shuttle arrives tomorrow. That night, Yuna sat in the mess area drinking synthetic coffee and staring at nothing. Her shoulder ached where she had hit the wall. Her hands were scraped from the climbing, but they had succeeded. Everyone was alive. Voss sat down across from her. That was stupid, he said. Yes. Yuna agreed. You could have died. All of you. Yes. But you went anyway. Yuna looked at him. Would you have left your people down there? Voss thought about it. No, I would have tried to save them. Then it wasn't stupid. It was necessary. The next day, a shuttle arrived to take Kes to the orbital medical facility. He thanked them before he left, his crystalline body still flickering with pain but stable. You saved my life, he said to Yuna. We all did, she corrected. 9 team members remained. The work continued. They were past the halfway point now, day 15 of 60. The base was functional but far from permanent. They needed to prove they could sustain operations long-term. Sora called a meeting. We have a problem, she said. Corporate is looking at our progress reports. They're concerned. We've had too many evacuations, too many equipment failures. They're questioning whether this colony is viable. We're still here, Dane said. We're still working. Being here isn't enough. We need to show real progress. We need to demonstrate that this colony can grow, that it can support more people, that it can be profitable. Minho spoke up. The mineral surveys are showing incredible deposits. Rare earth elements, lithium, platinum group metals. If we can start extraction, the value would be enormous. We're not equipped for mining, Sora said. We're a survey team. Then we need to change the approach, Yuna said quietly. Everyone looked at her. Explain, Sora said. Yuna had been thinking about this for days. We're trying to build a Paradise World colony on a Death World planet. It doesn't work. We need to design for broken rock, not against it. What does that mean? The habitats. We built them on the surface because that's standard. But the surface is unstable. We should build underground in the lava tubes. Natural temperature regulation, protection from dust storms, stable geology. Minho leaned forward. The tubes are extensive. My scans show hundreds of kilometers of connected tunnels. We could build an entire city underground. The thermal generators are working better than expected, Yuna continued. We should expand them. Use the temperature swings not just for power, but for climate control. Make the extreme conditions work for us. The dust, Hana added, catching on to Yuna's thinking. It's a problem now, but the crystalline structure makes it valuable for manufacturing. We should be harvesting it, not fighting it. Sora listened, her expression unreadable. Then she pulled up a holographic display showing the current base layout. Show me, she said. They worked through the night, designing a new approach. Modular underground habitats connected through the lava tubes. Thermal generators placed in the tubes where the temperature differential was most extreme. Dust collection systems that turned a hazard into a resource. Water extraction from the underground ice deposits. It was radical. It was nothing like standard colony design, but the more they worked on it, the more sense it made. This isn't a surface colony, Minho said. This is a subsurface city. The surface is just for landing pads and resource extraction. Can we build this with our current resources? Sora asked. Yuna did the calculations. We need to repurpose everything. The surface habitats get broken down and moved underground. All our equipment gets redesigned. We'll need 2 weeks of intensive work. That's 2 weeks where we're not making progress on the current mission. The current mission is failing, Yuna said bluntly. Corporate knows it. We know it. We need to show them something different, Sora considered. Then she nodded. I'll contact corporate. Pitch the new design. See if they'll approve the timeline extension. The response came back 8 hours later. Corporate was interested. They would approve a 30-day extension if the team could show concrete progress on the subsurface design within 2 weeks. They would send additional equipment and supplies. They would also send more personnel if the design proved viable. But there was a condition. The current team had to prove the concept. No more evacuations. No more failures. We're locked in now, Sora said. We succeed or we all go home. The team looked at each other. 9 people. 7 humans, 2 aliens. Not many to remake a colony. Let's get to work, Dane said. They started the next day. The first task was mapping the lava tubes fully. You deploy in 1 week, Vex said. Use the time to prepare. Check your equipment. Revi, the transport ship, dropped them off at dawn. Broken Rock's sun was smaller than Earth's, casting red light across the landscape that made everything look like it was covered in rust. Una stood at the landing pad and watched the transport lift off, its engines throwing dust in all directions. In moments it was gone, disappearing into the thin atmosphere. They were alone now. Commander Sora gathered the team near the prefabricated habitat modules that had been dropped 2 days earlier. She was human, Korean like Una, but older, maybe 40. She had done this before, established 3 other frontier colonies. 2 had succeeded. 1 had failed badly enough that she didn't talk about it. Listen up, Sora said. First priority is getting the habitats sealed and pressurized. We have 16 hours of daylight left. I want life support running before dark. The team split into work groups. Una was assigned to habitat assembly with Voss, Dane, and a Vrillian named Kess. They hauled the heavy panels across the rocky ground, fighting against the 1.3 gravity that made everything weigh more than it should. The temperature was already climbing. It had been -40 when they landed. Now it was approaching 0. By midday it would hit 80 or higher. Una felt sweat starting to form under her suit. This gravity is terrible, Kess complained. His crystalline body refracted the red sunlight in odd ways. How do you humans function in this? Practice, Dane grunted, lifting a panel that probably weighed 90 kilos in this gravity. Earth is 0.97. This is only a bit higher. They worked for 3 hours straight. The habitat panels locked together like a puzzle, each piece fitting precisely with the next. It should have been simple. But the ground kept shifting. Small tremors ran through the rock every few minutes, enough to throw off their balance and misalign the panels. Earthquake world, Voss muttered. This is insane, Una noticed a pattern. The tremors came in clusters, 3 or 4 small ones, then a pause of about 10 minutes, then another cluster. During the pauses, the ground was stable. Wait for the quiet periods to lock the panels, she said. During the tremors, just hold them in position. They tried it, it worked. The assembly went faster. By hour 5, the temperature had reached 70 degrees. Kess was moving slower, his species not built for heat. Voss was holding up well, but even he looked tired. The humans were sweating heavily, but still working at full pace. Water break, Sora called out. They gathered in the shade of a partially assembled habitat. The water was warm and tasted like recycled plastic, but it was wet. Una drank deeply and looked around at the landscape. Broken Rock was ugly. No other way to describe it. Jagged rocks, dust fields, and in the distance smoking volcanic vents. No plants, no water. No life of any kind. Just geology and violence. Why do we do this? Kess asked quietly. Why do you humans choose these places? Hana answered. Because if we don't, nobody will. And these worlds have value, resources, space, potential. But at what cost? That's what we're here to find out, Hana said. They finished the habitats by hour 14. 2 large structures connected by a sealed corridor. Life support came online and blessed cool air began circulating. The team filed inside and stripped off their environmental suits. The interior was basic. Metal floors, metal walls, storage lockers, and sleeping pods. No decoration. No comfort. But it was pressurized and temperature controlled, and right now that felt like luxury. Sora ran diagnostics. Life support is good. Power is good. Water reclamation is online. We're functional. The first night on Broken Rock, Una lay in her sleeping pod and listened to the planet. The wind howled outside, carrying dust against the habitat walls with a sound like sand through an hourglass. Every few minutes a tremor would shake the structure slightly. She thought about Mars, about her first night there when she was 3 years old and scared of the strange sounds. Her mother had sat with her and explained that the planet was just talking, just letting them know it was there. Broken Rock was talking too. It was saying that it didn't want them here. But Una had heard that before. The next day, they started the real work. Commander Sora divided them into teams. Survey team to map the area. Engineering team to set up power and water systems. Science team to study the environment and look for resources. Una was assigned to engineering with Diane and Minho, a geologist who had been quiet during training but seemed to know everything about rocks. Their job was to set up thermal generators to capture the massive day-night temperature swings and convert them into power. The theory is solid, Minho explained as they hauled equipment across the rocks. We're talking about a 140-degree temperature swing every 8 hours. That's massive thermal potential. We just need to build the collectors and the conversion system. How deep do we need to dig? Dane asked. 3 meters minimum. Deeper is better. The surface fluctuates too much. We need stable thermal mass underground. They started digging. In 1.3 gravity. Every shovel of dirt felt like 5 kilos. Yuna's shoulders burned after the first hour. But she kept going. This was important. If they could get thermal power working, they would be energy independent. No need for fuel shipments from orbit. By day 3, 2 of the non-human team members requested evacuation. The gravity was too much. The temperature swings were causing health problems. They were apologetic but firm. Sora approved their departure. No shame in knowing your limits. Better to leave now than become casualties later. A shuttle came and took them away. 13 team members remained. The first major quake hit on day 5. Yuna was working on the thermal collectors when the ground started to move, not the small tremors she had gotten used to. This was different. The whole world seemed to shift sideways. "Get down!" Minho shouted. They dropped flat. Rocks tumbled from a nearby outcrop. Dust rose in clouds. The shaking went on for 30 seconds, maybe 40. Long enough that Yuna started wondering if it would ever stop. Then it did. The world settled. In the distance, she heard a crash as something collapsed. "Everyone okay?" Sora's voice came through the comm. Yuna checked herself. "No injuries." "I'm good." "Same," Dane said. "Minho?" "Alive." They got up slowly. The landscape had changed. New cracks ran through the ground. One of the habitat modules had shifted on its foundation but looked intact. In the distance, a rock formation had collapsed entirely. "Magnitude 7.2, Minho said, checking his instruments. That was a big one. They worked through the afternoon assessing damage. The habitats were fine, built to flex with the quakes. The thermal collectors had shifted but could be repositioned. Most of the equipment was intact, but one of the storage modules had collapsed. The one containing their backup oxygen scrubbers. "How bad is this?" Sora asked Hana, who was running calculations. "We have enough scrubbers to last 60 days if nothing breaks. But if we lose one, we'll need to ration. And if we lose 2, we'll need emergency evacuation." Sora nodded slowly. "We'll be careful. Double-check all seals. Triple-check maintenance schedules." That night, 3 more team members requested evacuation. The quake had broken their nerve. They couldn't handle the thought of 60 more days of this, knowing the next quake could be worse. Sora didn't argue with them. "Pack your things. Shuttle arrives tomorrow." 10 team members remained. 7 humans, 3 aliens. Voss stayed. So did Kess, though he looked scared. "Why are you staying?" Yuna asked Voss that evening. "Because I want to see if we can do this," he said. "Your people have succeeded on worlds like this. My people have not. I want to understand why." The work continued. They finished the thermal collectors on day 8. When they came online, the power output was better than projected. The massive temperature swings were proving to be an advantage. "Look at this," Minho said, showing Yuna the readings. "We're generating 3 times what we would from solar panels. The thermal differential is incredible. Can we use it for anything else?" Yuna asked. Minho thought about it. "Maybe climate control? If we're pulling heat from one side of the system and dumping it on the other, we could regulate temperature in the habitats more efficiently." They experimented. It worked. The habitats became more comfortable using less power overall. Small victories. On day 10, they found water. Not surface water, obviously. But Minho's geological surveys showed ice deposits 3 meters underground. They drilled and found it, frozen solid, contaminated with minerals but filterable. "This changes everything," Sora said. "If we have local water, we're not dependent on recycling and imports. We can expand." But the dust was getting worse. The crystalline particles were everywhere. They got into seals despite the best efforts. They contaminated the air filters. They scratched faceplates and damaged instruments. Hana developed a cleaning protocol. Every piece of equipment had to be wiped down twice daily. Environmental suits had to be inspected constantly. It was tedious work, but necessary. On day 12, disaster struck. A work team was outside setting up communication relays when another quake hit. Magnitude 6.8. Not as big as the first one, but big enough. A section of ground collapsed, dropping 3 team members into a crevasse. Yuna heard the screams over the comm. "Collapse. We have a collapse." 3 team members down. She ran, everyone ran. They reached the site to find a hole in the ground, too. The selection trials lasted 7 days. Each day brought new challenges designed to break the recruits down, to find their limits, to see who would quit. Day 1 was endurance. They ran on treadmills set to 1.3 gravity, simulating Broken Rock's pull. The extra weight made every step harder, every breath more difficult. The Kellians handled it well, their forearms giving them better balance. The Vrillians struggled, their crystalline bodies not built for sustained movement. 3 quit before lunch. Una ran for 4 hours straight. Her legs burned. Her lungs ached. But she had spent 11 years on Mars where the gravity was lighter. Coming back to Earth standard had been hard. Training at 1.3 was just another adjustment. She finished in the top 5. Day 2 was temperature extremes. They entered chambers that cycled from freezing to scorching every 30 minutes. -40 to +85, matching Broken Rock's day-night cycle. The recruits had to assemble equipment, repair seals, and complete tasks while their bodies fought against the temperature swings. The non-humans suffered badly. Their environmental suits struggled to compensate. 2 Kellians developed hypothermia in the cold phase. Abrax collapsed from heat exhaustion in the warm phase. They were pulled out and sent to medical. The humans adapted. Dane worked with bare hands during the cold phases, his fingers moving quickly before the freezing set in. Hana taught the others to slow their breathing during the heat, to conserve energy and let their bodies adjust. Una noticed patterns in how the temperature changed and started timing her work to match the cycles. By day 3, only 16 recruits remained. The trial that day was equipment failure. They were given broken life support systems and told to fix them. The catch was that they had to work in pairs, 1 human and 1 non-human. Una was paired with a Kellian named Voss. He was older than most recruits, maybe 40 in human years, with scars on his gray skin that suggested military service. He looked at Una with suspicion. "Humans are fragile," he said through his translator. "I will have to compensate for your weakness." Una didn't argue. She just started examining the broken oxygen scrubber they had been given. It was a mess. Corroded filters, cracked seals, burned out control circuits. This wasn't just broken. This was sabotaged to be as difficult as possible. "The primary issue is the valve assembly," she said, pointing to a component deep in the machine's guts. "It's seized. We need to remove it, clean it, and reinstall it." Voss reached in with 2 of his arms trying to grip the valve. His hands were too large. "The space was designed for smaller manipulators. I cannot reach it," he admitted. "I can," Una said. She rolled up her sleeve and reached into the machine, her smaller human hands fitting easily into the tight space. Her fingers found the valve and began working it loose. "How do you do that?" Voss asked, watching her work. "Do what?" "Your hands. They are so precise, so delicate, but also strong enough to force the components." Una thought about it. "Humans evolved to make tools. Our hands are built for fine manipulation. It's one of the things we're good at." She got the valve free and pulled it out. It was covered in corrosion. Cleaning it would take time. "You take this," she said, handing it to Voss. "Your people have better fine motor control than we do with your 4 arms. Clean this while I work on the electrical systems." They worked together for 3 hours. Voss's 4 hands made quick work of the intricate cleaning. Una rewired the control circuits using spare parts cannibalized from other broken equipment. They finished second among the remaining pairs. Afterward, Voss approached her in the mess hall. "I was wrong," he said simply. "Humans are not fragile. You are efficient." "Thanks," Una said. "Why do you want to go to Broken Rock?" he asked. "Your species has good worlds. Earth is beautiful. I have seen the images. Why choose a death world?" Una considered her answer carefully. "Because someone has to prove it can be done. Someone has to show that we can build on these worlds, not just survive on them." Voss nodded slowly. "Your people are strange, but I think I understand." Day 4 was psychological evaluation. They were isolated in small rooms for 12 hours with nothing but their thoughts. No contact. No stimulation, just silence and time. The psychologist wanted to see who could handle the loneliness of frontier work, where help was weeks away and communication was delayed by light speed limits. Una found it peaceful. She had spent years on Mars where entertainment was limited and human contact was scarce. 12 hours alone was nothing. She used the time to think about her parents, about the colony she had left behind, about what she wanted to accomplish on Broken Rock. When they let her out, the psychologist asked how she felt. Fine, Yuna said. Most recruits find this difficult, the psychologist noted. She was human, which surprised Yuna. Most of the training staff were aliens. I grew up on Mars, Yuna explained. During the terraform failures, we didn't have much entertainment. You learn to be alone with your thoughts. The psychologist made notes. How old were you when the failures happened? 7. And you stayed? Your family didn't evacuate? My parents thought we could make it work. They were right. More notes. Do you think about death? Everyone thinks about death. Are you afraid of dying on broken rock? Yuna thought about it honestly. No, I'm afraid of failing. Dying is just part of the job. The psychologist looked at her for a long moment. You're cleared for deployment. Day 5 was team coordination. The remaining recruits were divided into 3 teams and sent into a simulated environment. They had to work together to repair a habitat after a catastrophic failure. No leaders were assigned. They had to organize themselves. Yuna's team had 4 humans and 3 aliens. The aliens immediately looked to the humans for direction, which surprised Yuna. They had trained for 3 months together, but suddenly the aliens were deferring to the human recruits. Dane took charge naturally. Okay, we have multiple failures. Life support, power, and water. We need to prioritize. Life support first, Hana said. We can survive without power for a while. We can ration water, but we need air. They split into sub-teams. Yuna worked with Voss again, and she noticed that their efficiency from day 3 carried over. They communicated with minimal words, each understanding what the other needed. The simulation threw problems at them constantly. Power surges, structural failures, contaminated water. Each problem had to be solved quickly and correctly, or the simulation would add more damage. Yuna found herself falling into a rhythm. This was familiar. This was Mars during the bad years, when everything broke at once and her family had to work through the night to keep the habitat running. She knew how to prioritize. She knew how to work fast without making mistakes. Their team finished first. All systems restored, all problems solved, 0 casualties. Instructor Vex reviewed the results. Human Team 1 completed in 4 hours. Human Team 2 completed in 5 hours. Mixed Team completed in 4 hours and 12 minutes. Interesting. He looked at Yuna's team. How did you organize so quickly? Dine answered. We've done this before. Maybe not exactly this, but situations like it. We grew up on worlds where things break. You learn to fix them fast. Day 6 was medical emergencies. Each recruit was presented with a casualty, an actor made up to simulate injuries from various scenarios. Broken bones, radiation exposure, vacuum exposure, chemical burns. They had to diagnose and treat using limited supplies. Hana excelled at this, unsurprisingly. She was training as a medical specialist, but Yuna held her own. Mars had taught her basic field medicine. When your nearest hospital was a 4-week flight away, everyone learned how to treat injuries. The casualty she was assigned had simulated vacuum exposure. Burst blood vessels in the eyes, skin damage, and internal hemorrhaging. Yuna worked through the treatment protocol methodically. Stop the bleeding. Treat for shock. Administer oxygen. Keep the patient warm. Monitor vitals. She finished and looked up to find Instructor Vex watching her. Where did you learn field medicine? He asked. Mars, we had to. Medical help was limited. You are very calm when you work. Yuna shrugged. Panicking doesn't help. Day 7 was the final test. A comprehensive scenario that combined everything they had learned. Extreme environment, equipment failures, medical emergencies, and team coordination. 12 hours of sustained crisis management. 15 recruits entered. 15 recruits finished. Instructor Vex gathered them afterward. They stood in the briefing room exhausted and filthy, waiting for the results. You all passed, Vex said. You are the team that will deploy to Broken Rock. Relief washed through the room. Yuna felt her shoulders relax slightly. She had made it. They all had made it. But understand this, Vex continued. Passing training does not mean you will survive. The real world is harder than any simulation. Equipment breaks in ways we cannot predict. Weather exceeds our models, and people make mistakes. Fatal mistakes. He paused, his alien eyes scanning each of them. Your mission is to establish a permanent base. You have 60 days to prove it can be done. If you fail, the project is scrubbed. If you succeed, you will open Broken Rock to full colonization. Thousands of jobs, billions in economic value. A new world for the galaxy. Thousands of jobs, Una thought, like Mars was supposed to be. But Mars had been a near failure. Broken Rock didn't have to be. The alarm screamed through the training facility at 0400 hours. Una was already awake. She had been staring at the ceiling of her quarters for the past 20 minutes, watching the faint lights from the orbital station's docking bay play across the metal panels above her bed. Sleep never came easy before big announcements. She pulled on her training suit and sealed the wrist clasps with practiced efficiency. The fabric felt like a second skin now, after 3 months of wearing it every day. Around her, other recruits were stumbling out of their bunks, groaning and cursing in a dozen different languages. The Kellians moved slowly, their forearms fumbling with equipment. The Vrillians were worse, their crystalline bodies sluggish in the artificial gravity that mimicked Earth standard. Only the humans moved with purpose. Dane was already dressed, lacing his boots with quick movements. Hana emerged from the women's section, her hair tied back in a tight bun, her face showing no trace of tiredness. They exchanged nods. No words were needed. The training hall was massive, designed to hold recruits from 17 different species. The ceiling stretched 30 meters high to accommodate the towering Brax people. The floor had multiple gravity settings for species that evolved in lighter or heavier worlds. But today everyone would train under Earth standard, one full gravity, the kind that made most aliens struggle. Instructor Vex stood at the front of the hall. He was Kellian, which meant he had 4 arms, gray skin that looked like stone and eyes that could see in spectrums humans couldn't even imagine. He had trained thousands of recruits over his 20-year career. He had seen species from across the galaxy try to become Frontier Corps soldiers. Host failed. Listen up, Vex's voice boomed across the hall. His translator chip rendered his words in every language simultaneously. Today we talk about your next assignment. Some of you will not like what you hear. Some of you will quit before I finish talking. That is acceptable. Better to quit now than die later. The hall fell silent. 63 recruits stood at attention. Una could feel her heartbeat steady and strong. This was it. This was what she had been waiting for. You have trained for 3 months in simulated environments, Vex continued. You have survived Category 3 and Category 4 Death World scenarios. You have proven you can work in teams, repair equipment under pressure, and make decisions when communications fail. You have done well. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled recruits. Now you will do it for real. Planet Broken Rock, Category 5 Death World. Extreme temperature variation, constant seismic activity, thin atmosphere, crystalline dust storms that destroy equipment. Mining corporations have tried to establish colonies there 4 times. All 4 attempts failed. People died. Equipment was lost. Billions in investment vanished. A murmur ran through the crowd. Category 5. That was the highest rating. Worlds that actively killed anyone who tried to live on them. They want to try again, Vex said. They need a team that can establish a permanent base. 15 of you will be selected. You will deploy in 2 weeks. The mortality rate for non-human species on Broken Rock is 87% in the first month. Someone in the back gasped. Una heard a Sheen recruit whisper something that sounded like a prayer. For humans, Vex continued, his eyes finding the small cluster of human recruits, the mortality rate is 34%. 34%. That meant 1 in 3 humans died. Those weren't good odds, but they were better than 87%. Una did the math in her head. If 7 humans deployed, statistically 2 would die. She wondered who it would be. You have 24 hours to decide if you want to volunteer, Vex said. Selection trials begin tomorrow at 600, dismissed. The hall erupted into conversation. Recruits clustered in groups, talking rapidly in their native languages. Some were already walking toward the administration office to withdraw. Una watched a Vrillian couple leave together, their crystalline bodies catching the light as they hurried away. You going to volunteer? Dine asked, appearing at her shoulder. Yes, Una said simply. Same. Dine grinned. Sounds like fun. Hana joined them. 34% mortality. That means 66% survival. Better than I expected, honestly. They started walking toward the mess hall. Breakfast wouldn't be served for another hour, but the coffee dispensers were always running. Una needed coffee. Why do they keep trying to colonize it? Hana asked. If it keeps failing, why not just give up? Mineral deposits, Dane said. Broken Rock has rare earth elements that are worth a fortune. If they can establish a permanent base, they can mine for decades. The profit would be enormous. Yuna listened but didn't comment. She knew about valuable minerals. Mars had been colonized for the same reason. Her parents had gone there when she was 3 years old, part of the first wave of Korean settlers. They had been promised good jobs, good housing, and a future for their daughter. They got dust storms and equipment failures instead. The terraform engines broke down when Yuna was 7. Half the colony evacuated. Her family stayed. Her father said they had invested too much to leave. Her mother said they would make it work, and they did. For 11 years, Yuna learned to live on a world that didn't want humans there. She learned to repair oxygen scrubbers in the dark. She learned to sleep in an environmental suit when the habitat heaters failed. She learned to calculate water rations and oxygen reserves in her head because the computers couldn't be trusted. By the time she was 18, she could rebuild a life support system from scrap parts. She could navigate dust storms that blocked all signals. She could survive on a death world because that was all she had ever known. Earth, when she finally visited it at age 20, felt wrong. Too much oxygen, too much water, weather that followed patterns, seasons that were predictable. It made her nervous. She joined the Frontier Corps 6 months later. "You're quiet," Hana observed. "Thinking," Yuna said. They reached the mess hall and got coffee. The brew was terrible, synthesized from proteins and flavored with chemicals, but it was hot and it had caffeine. Yuna wrapped her hands around the cup and let the warmth seep into her fingers. At 800, Instructor Vex called an additional briefing. Only 23 recruits showed up. 40 had already withdrawn. The ones who remained were mostly human, 12 out of 23. The rest were species known for toughness, Kellians, Brax, a few Vrillians who looked terrified but determined. "Good," Vex said, surveying the reduced group. "The smart ones left. Now we see if the brave ones are also capable." He activated a holographic display. A planet appeared, rotating slowly. It looked angry. Red and brown surface streaked with black. No blue oceans. No green continents. Just rock and dust and volcanic vents, broken rock, Vex said. No moons. Rotation period 16 hours. 1.3 times Earth gravity. Atmosphere is 40% Earth pressure. Breathable but requires supplemental oxygen for extended activity. Temperature ranges from -60°C at night to +85 during the day. Seismic activity is constant, major quakes every 3 to 4 days, minor tremors every few hours. The hologram zoomed in, showing surface details. Jagged mountains, deep canyons, fields of crystalline formations that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "The dust is your biggest enemy," Vex continued. "It is sharp. Microscopic crystals that get into everything. It shreds fabric. It damages seals. It gets into machinery and grinds moving parts to powder. You cannot stop it. You can only manage it." He looked directly at Yuna. For a moment, their eyes locked. "You will die out there," he said. His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "All of you. This is not a simulation anymore. This is real. People will die. Equipment will fail. And when it does, you will be 4 weeks from the nearest help. Do you understand?" Yuna felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear, recognition. This was Mars all over again. This was living on the edge, where one mistake meant death, where every day was a fight against a world that wanted you gone. She reached down and tightened her gloves, feeling the seals click into place. The sound was familiar, comforting. She had been tightening gloves since she was 7 years old. "Then it'll feel like home," she said quietly. Vex stared at her for a long moment. Then something that might have been a smile crossed his alien features. "Selection trials begin tomorrow," he said. "Get some rest. You will need it."